Today in our Oz Talk, the science of near death. Dr. Sam Parnia, author of Erasing Death, is here. He's leading the largest ever medical study into the topic of death. And what he teaches us, the stories of people that have come back from the death, can help us avoid any regrets when that moment comes, because eventually it will. And if you're afraid of the pain and fear of death, then pay attention to this Oz Talk. Take it away.
Thank you so much. You know, everyone has a perception about death, and it's really something that's framed based upon our history, our culture. But it's important to understand, I'm an intensive care doctor. My job is to save people's lives when they become very sick, and to try to ensure that they don't cross beyond the threshold of death. But unfortunately, people do sometimes. And so what we now know is that there is a science by which we can save people's lives and ensure they don't come back without brain damage. But also what that science is telling us is about what happens when we die. What is the human experience of death? What happens to consciousness? What happens to our mind? Do we become annihilated? Now, traditionally, these are thought to be philosophical or religious questions, but today they're really in the forefront of science. So what does happen when we die? Essentially, death is a process. It's not a black and white moment. What happens is, no matter why we become sick, whether it's a heart attack, it's a stroke, whether we have a car accident, it doesn't matter why, but the final result is that we have a reduction in the oxygen that gets inside the brain when we're about to die. And that causes our brain circuits to shut down, and we become unconscious to the outside world. When the heart stops, all life processes go out because there's no more blood getting into the brain, into your kidneys, into your livers, and we become lifeless, motionless. And that's the time that doctors use to give us a time of death. But what's really remarkable, and that has been discovered in the last 10 or 20 years, is that actually it's only after we die, after we go beyond the threshold of death, that the cells inside the body start to decompose. And they don't decompose, even in the brain, in just a few minutes. It can take many hours of time. So what that means is we are dead when we die. It's not that we weren't dead. We are dead. But the cells are starting to go through their own process of death. Our brain doesn't work, but we're gradually decomposing. From my perspective, that means that we have a lot of time to bring people back if we know what to do. So what are the things we can do? We can cool the brain down because we know that it's a chemical process, and we can slow down the rate by which cells die, restart the heart again, and reverse the process that caused them to die, if there is a science available to do that at this time. Now, a lot of people are afraid of death because it's the unknown. But what we actually know is that when we die, if we sort of jump into the person's body at that time, that experience is not unpleasant for the vast majority of people. Put aside those who've tried to commit suicide or done something like that to themselves. For those of us who die naturally, what happens is, even if we were in pain before we died, the process of death becomes very comfortable, it's very blissful, it's peaceful. And what people then describe to us is incredible. They describe a sensation of experiencing a bright, warm, welcoming light that draws the person towards them. They describe a sensation sometimes of experiencing their deceased relatives, almost as if they've come to welcome them. They describe that they actually didn't want to come back anymore in many cases. It's so comfortable, and it's like a magnet that draws them, that they don't want to come back. A lot of them, and what is fascinating from my perspective, is they actually describe a sensation of separating from themselves and watching doctors and nurses working on them. They can hear things. They can recall all conversations. They can see everything. And they describe in clear detail what had happened, which means it can't be a hallucination, because they come back and tell us everything that we were doing. They're describing real events, not imaginary events. Doctors and nurses are like, I don't know how he told me this because he was dead. And some of them describe a sensation where they actually review everything that they have done. So if I hurt somebody, whether on purpose or unintentionally, if I said something that was spiteful, then I experience that exact pain that I may have caused you or somebody else. And so I judge myself. Somebody else doesn't judge me. I realize what I should have done. Obviously, for most people, they're not going to come back to tell us. But because of our science, we can now bring people back, and those who come back tell us exactly what the experience of death was like for them. And what's really profound is that they become transformed in a very positive way. They see life very differently. Now they realize that life had more meaning. They've been given a second chance, and they can do things differently. And by and large, what they say is that we realize we should have tried to be of more service to others. try to spend more time with our families, try to help others much more, essentially be less self-centered and more altruistic. Now, somebody might say, well, how do we know this is true? I think it's important to explain two things. One is that until very recently, we couldn't bring people back after they had died. Okay? And so basically, it was thought to be purely philosophical or religious. But today, there is a science by which we can bring them back. And it's like the old days, you know, when people set out from Europe to go to find the Americas, and they found all these amazing creatures and these amazing experiences nobody had seen before. When they came back and told people, a lot of people never believed them. They thought they were drunk, they thought they were imagining it. It's important to understand, though, that this is an experience that has been described from all over the world, sometimes from children less than 3 years old, who have no idea about life, death, the afterlife, religious questions, and they all describe the same thing. I had a small child who told me that when I died, I experienced a bright lamp. So they used children's terminology, and he drew a picture of it with a lamp, and he said, when you die, you're connected by a cord to the lamp, and it's the cord that gets cut when you go. Of course, he didn't say it like that, but he said it during the course of play. Gradually, it built up. And adults have said the same thing to us as well. These experiences have been described from all over the world, from Southeast Asia, from the Middle East, from Africa, from the United States. And what we see is that the experience is very much the same, but the interpretation, frankly, like any experience, depends on the person's background. So, for instance, if a Christian person has this experience and they see a being full of love and compassion, they say that I saw Christ. But if you actually really push them, they say, well, I don't know if it was Christ. I expected it to be Christ because I believe that. And if you talk to a Hindu, they may say that I saw one of the Hindu gods. And if you talk to an atheist, they'll say, well, I don't know why I had this experience because I don't believe in anything anyway. But, well, I did see this being of light, and it was really full of love and compassion. And I don't know how to account for it, but I think it's going to change the way I'm going to live my life. So I think what I'd like to simply end with is to say that while we are afraid of death, because it is the unknown, and unfortunately it's an inevitable consequence from all of us, despite all the medical care that we try to provide, that there is now a science, and that death does not have to be limited to philosophy or religion, but it can be explored through these means. And it helps us to understand how we should obviously provide medical care, from my perspective, but also how we should live our lives today to give ourselves more meaning and to make sure that when we do reach that end, as somebody once said to me, I don't want to fail. I feel like I lived my life with a D. I was given a second chance. I hope that when I go back the second time, I'll be given a C at the very least when I go back. I hope this was useful to you.
Very helpful.
Thank you. Thanks for having
Wonderful job. We'll save lives today.
You guys ready to get healthy?